There was a ginger drummer with fairly massive hands. He liked a Yorkshire pudding and lots of poppy bands. His name it was Jack Homer, and he had but one desire, to meet a flame-haired lady who could set his soul on fire. He signed up to a Facebook list to win a free blind date. Just turn up outside Nando's at 8:25. So that was the beginning of Jack Homer's epic quest that took him from the east of Leeds to Nando's in the west. This handsome son of Seacroft pulled on his favourite top. He frizzed his floppy hair up and bronzed his ginger chops. He posted on his Facebook, "I'm ready, cannot wait," and leapt upon his skateboard and set off for his date. He waited for the 50 outside the Dib Lane shops and fiddled with his mobile phone while lounging by the stop. But when the bus arrived he found he hadn't got his pass. He tried to climb aboard but he was thrown off on his ass. But Jack was not a man to let such conduct get him down. He grabbed onto the bumper bar and skated into town. The bus wound through the city streets while Jack clung on abaft, trying to keep his ginger quiff from wilting in the draft. But as he rode through Hare Hills past the Continental stores, he heard an urban melody begin to swoop and soar. 3 girls were singing R&B by the reggae chicken shop. They began to wink and call to Jack to get off at their stop. They waved their chicken legs at him and coyly twirled their hair, then held their greasy boxes out and offered him a share. But Jack was not distracted by their paltry meat delights. He felt that there were better treats awaiting him that night. And so the bus continued on and left the girls behind, their siren song a dwindling to an echo in his mind. He turned onto the hedgerow and jumped off at TK Maxx, when suddenly he realized he was lacking certain facts. He didn't know which Nando's was the venue for his date. He'd have to check all 3 of them, although he might be late. He tried to get on Facebook for to narrow down his search, but his 3G roaming signal had now left him in the lurch. He had to start off somewhere and headed for the light, still hoping he could salvage things and have a pleasant night. But when he got to Nando's he began to stew and fret. It was entirely full of couples who were drinking to forget. He quickly scanned the tables full of chicken and cheap wine, but sadly to his sorrow of his date there was no sign. His belly was a-rumbling but his heart cried out for more, for who can think of chicken when one's mind is on a moor? He trundled off down Brigade to Nando's number 2, but halfway to the Trinity he heard a wild cuckoo. He stopped and turned and looked around to see who'd made the cry, and saw ahead a scruffy man who only had one eye. A mad bird whistle seller with a bitter-looking face. The moment he caught sight of Jack, towards him he did race. He thundered past the pack horse, his legs eating up the ground, and called out with an angry yell, "Hey, you owe me £1." Now Jack knew in his heart of hearts that this was not the truth. He'd never had a bird whistle to brighten up his youth. But looking at the bloodlust in that cyclopean eye, he knew that this was not the time to quibble but to fly. And so he ran down Brigade with his foe in hot pursuit. The Cyclops put his whistle in his mouth and gave a toot, and from the yards and alleyways there came the dulcet tones of a dozen ringtone vendors with their trolleys full of phones. They pursued him past Minerva and down onto Boar Lane, each calling for the sacred pound their one-eyed friend had claimed. Jack knew he had to hide from them and leapt into a crowd of ladies in a hen party, all singing very loud. Although it was a hen night, all was not as it seemed, because these drunken ladies had a very special theme. Each one of them was modelling a bright pink nylon wig, and they were strolling down Boar Lane dressed up as sexy pigs. They gathered round our hero while giving him the eye, and nudged him with their trotters as the Cyclops passed him by. But though they saved him from his foe, Jack was not in the clear, for they had mischief on their minds and bellies full of beer. "I'd like to try your skateboard," said Piggy number 1. "Tonight it is my hen night, I'm out to have some fun. I've already got my L-plates on, so now all that I need is to find myself a half-pipe and fulfill my need for speed." She pushed Jack off his board and then she jumped up in his stead. "Come on, girl," she cried, as to the corn exchange she sped. "All aboard for Circe's hen do," she hollered to the sky, while the pigs all thundered after her like bloodhounds in full cry. So Jack trudged down Boar Lane on foot to Nando's number 3. He was tired and worn, his mood reduced to quiet misery. Arriving at the restaurant, he was half an hour late, and half convinced he'd lost his chance of going on a date. But standing by the entrance was the woman of his dreams. In the light from Nando's windows, quite a shot of self-esteem. Her hair was red, her hands were huge, her boots were big and black. She was the spitting image of our lonely hero Jack. He fell down on one knee and said, "I'm here, I am your date." She sighed and shook her head at him and said, "You're pretty late. And anyway, I'm sad to say that gingers aren't my type. I never could go out with such a flame-haired gutter snipe." She stuck her nose up in the air and slowly stalked away, while Jack stood up and sighed as he reflected on his day. And as he did, he caught a glimpse of his image in the glass of Nando's restaurant window. He was looking pretty class. "Who needs a girl like that?" he thought. "I'm better off alone. I think I'll go to Nando's and have dinner on my own. I'll be my own date for a night of peri-peri glee, for I'm the hero of this city centre Odyssey."